The air was crisp that early Seattle morning, the kind that wakes your soul before the sun even tries. A thin mist rolled over the wet streets, and the smell of rain mixed with roasted beans from nearby cafes. Inside a tiny apartment above an old bookstore, a young man named Ethan Carter stood by his window, holding a chipped mug filled with his latest coffee experiment. The dark liquid swirled gently as he stared at it, deep in thought. It wasn't just a drink for him, it was his dream in a cup. Ethan was 26, tall and thoughtful, with eyes that always seemed to be observing, learning, imagining. He worked as a literature teacher in a small community college, earning just enough to cover rent and bills. But when he wasn't teaching, he was completely consumed by his love for coffee. Not just drinking it, understanding it. The beans, the roasting, the grind, the aroma, every part fascinated him like poetry. Every evening after grading papers, Ethan would go down to his small kitchen, surrounded by the hum of his second-hand coffee grinder and the sweet smell of roasted beans. His counter was cluttered with coffee filters, thermometers, and tiny jars labeled Brazil, Kenya, and Colombia. He wasn't a trained barista, but his curiosity pushed him to learn everything. Sometimes he'd stay awake past midnight, experimenting with new brewing methods, jotting down notes like a scientist in a lab. His best friend, Tom, often laughed at him. "Man, you treat coffee like it's a religion," Tom said one night. Ethan just smiled. "Maybe it is. It brings people together, boy, don't you see that?" And Ethan truly believed that. For him, coffee wasn't about caffeine or profit. It was about connection. He had grown up watching his mother make coffee for neighbors who came to share stories. He remembered how laughter would fill their small kitchen, how problems felt lighter with a cup in hand. That memory stayed with him all his life. Every morning before work, Ethan visited different cafes around Seattle. He'd observed the baristas, how they smiled at customers, how they steamed the milk, how they greeted regulars by name. He paid attention to the details, the warmth, the friendliness, the comfort. One morning, in a cozy cafe called Harbor Brew, something unexpected happened. He was sipping his Americano, taking notes quietly, when he noticed a girl sitting alone by the window. She had long brown hair, a sketchbook open in front of her, and a small smile playing on her lips as she sipped her latte. There was something peaceful about her presence. Calm, focused, yet full of quiet energy. Ethan couldn't help but watch her sketch the steam rising from her cup, her pencil moving gracefully on the paper. After a few minutes of hesitation, Ethan gathered his courage, stood up, and approached her table. "You seem to enjoy your cup like it's art," he said softly. The girl looked up, slightly startled, then smiled. "That's because it is art," she replied. "Every cup tells a story if you take time to taste it." Her name was Lila Bennett, a design student who loved sketching people and places that inspired her. She had been visiting different cafes to draw scenes of daily life. That day, she had been sketching the steam, the cups, the people laughing in the background. And now this stranger talking about coffee as art intrigued her. They ended up talking for an hour. Ethan shared his dream of opening a cafe someday. Not just any cafe, but a place where people could slow down, talk, and find comfort. Lila listened with interest, sipping her latte, eyes sparkling. "You know," she said, "I've always wanted to design a cafe. Warm lights, wood tables, art on the walls, books everywhere. The kind of place where stories begin. That was the beginning of something special." Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Lila met again at a new cafe every time. They tasted cappuccinos, espressos, cold brews, and lattes, talking endlessly about flavors, dreams, and life. Lila showed him her sketches. Ethan showed her his notes on coffee blends. Slowly, friendship turned into something deeper. Ethan started to notice how her laughter filled the room like sunshine, how her hands moved gracefully as she explained her ideas. And Lila noticed how his eyes lit up when he spoke about his dream. Cafe, full of passion and sincerity. One evening, while they sat in a quiet cafe watching rain streak the window, Lila asked softly, "Ethan, if you could start your cafe tomorrow, what would you call it?" He smiled and said, "Starbucks." Lila tilted her head. "Starbucks? That's unusual. What does it mean?" Ethan explained that the name came from one of his favorite books, Moby Dick. Starbuck was a character, a sailor, calm and thoughtful. It reminds me of adventure, Ethan said. Of the sea, of journeys, of people traveling from faraway places to share a moment together. That's what coffee should be, a journey in a cup. Lila grinned. Then it's perfect. Let's make it happen someday. It was a bold dream, and for a while it seemed impossible. Ethan's salary wasn't enough to start a business. He began saving every dollar he could, giving up little luxuries. No dinners out, no new clothes, no vacations. Every penny went into his Coffee Dream Fund, a small glass jar on his shelf. Lila supported him fully. Sometimes she'd help him with designs for the future cafe. Logo ideas, shop layouts, cozy corner sketches. They imagined shelves of beans from around the world, a warm glow of lights, the sound of gentle music, and a place where everyone felt welcome. Months passed, and then came the day. Ethan finally had enough to rent a small stall near Pike Place Market, one of Seattle's busiest areas. It wasn't much, just a few square feet, a counter, and an old coffee machine. But it was his. With Lila's help, he painted the walls a warm beige and hung a handmade sign above the counter. Starbucks Coffee. The logo Lila designed featured a mysterious green mermaid with a double tail, inspired by ancient sailor myths. She'll symbolize the soul of the sea, Lila said, and the way coffee connects hearts. Ethan loved it instantly. The first few weeks were hard. Some days, only 2 or 3 customers stopped by. Many just passed without looking. Ethan worked from dawn till late night, brewing, serving, smiling. No matter how slow the day was. Lila helped after her design classes, wiping tables, taking notes on customer feedback, and encouraging Ethan when he felt tired. One cold evening, after a day with almost no customers, Ethan slumped behind the counter, exhausted. Maybe this was a mistake, he muttered. Maybe people don't need another coffee stall? Lila placed a gentle hand on his arm. Ethan, she said softly, dreams don't bloom overnight. You're brewing something beautiful. It just takes time, like the perfect cup. Her words gave him strength. The next morning he got up early, adjusted his recipes, added cinnamon and vanilla options, and personally greeted every customer who walked by. He told stories about the beans, their origins, and how every blend had a purpose. People began to notice his passion. Some came back the next day, bringing friends. Word started spreading about the stall with the young man who made coffee with heart. Soon, office workers, travelers, and students began stopping by regularly. Ethan remembered every name, every favorite order. The stall started to buzz with laughter and conversation. By the end of the first year, Starbucks wasn't just a stall anymore. It had become a small community. People lingered longer, some reading books, others chatting about life. Ethan had built what he always dreamed of, a place where strangers became friends over a cup of coffee. One evening, as the sun set behind the market, Ethan locked up the stall and looked at the glowing sign. Lila stood beside him, holding 2 cups. We did it, she whispered. Ethan smiled, took a sip, and looked around. The crowd, the laughter, the warm light spilling from the window. No, he said softly, this is just the beginning. He didn't know then that Starbucks would someday grow beyond Seattle, beyond America, that it would become a symbol of comfort, warmth, and connection across the world. All he knew was that he had found his purpose, and the love that helped him believe in it. That night, Ethan and Lila sat together on the curb, watching people walk by, their hands wrapped around steaming cups, the city lights reflected in their eyes. Lila leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, You see, Ethan, every cup really does tell a story. He smiled. And ours, he said, has just begun.